guys, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Aprilia Hastuti, and in this video I want to explain about the various definition of literature and its implication in English language teaching. So, literature in its broadest sense is any written work. Etymologically, the term derives from Latin literatura or literatura, that means writing form with letters, although some definition include spoken or sung text. More restrictively, it is writing that possesses literary merit. Literature can be classified according to whether it is fiction or non-fiction, and whether it is poetry or prose. It can be further distinguished according to major forms such as the novel, short story, or drama, and works are often categorized according to historical periods or their adherence to certain aesthetic features or expectation or genre. The term literature is used basically in two different senses. First, it is used to refer to any written material on a subject. Second, it is a term used to refer to one of the school subjects studied by student or university discipline. And it is the second sense that applies to us in this context. As a subject or discipline, literature has been variously defined by different scholars. According to Onwekusi 2013, literature is any imaginative and beautiful creation in words, whether oral or written, which explore man as he struggles to survive in his existential position and which provides entertainment, information, education, and excitement to its audience. Although the definition of literature by Onwekusi succinctly attempts to capture the essence of literature, it is pertinent to point out that not all literature is imaginative. As a matter of fact, some literary works are factual, and it is based on this understanding that the prose genre is classified into two, namely fiction and non-fiction. The role of literature in the English language teaching classroom has been reassessed by many experts, and now many of them view literary text as providing rich linguistic input, in addition to effective stimuli for students to express themselves in other language. In this way, literature can be a potential source of learner motivation. Literary texts offer a rich source of linguistic input and can help learners to practice the four language skills: speaking, listening, reading, and writing. In addition to exemplifying grammatical structures and presenting new vocabulary. So, from this explanation, we can say that literature in English language teaching is how we use literature in teaching English in the classroom, like how we as a teacher use prose in our classroom to teach the student, use drama or use poetry for the materials, so we can give the students new information about language by the literary work. Next is the implication of literature in English language teaching. The use of short stories, poems, novels, and others help maintain the interest of the foreign language or second language learners in learning the language. When a short poem or a nursery rhyme is acted out, the whole class enjoys the performance and learner observe some intonation patterns not easily achieved otherwise. Thus, learners may be acquainted with intonation, rhythm, tone, syllabus, and other, with the help of nursery rhymes and poems. The proper use of literature in language teaching helps improve the knowledge of English in many ways. Literary Pieces are susceptible to multiple levels of interpretation. In literary work, content is communicated in many noble ways, with metaphors and multiple meaning, sarcasm, and cynicism. The readers may use the word in some unique manner to create noble meanings and expressions. So, teachers should choose short or self-contained pieces, and then students can feel a sense of accomplishment in having read and understood an encouraging experience when the process of learning a language seems indeed is endless. So there are some tips. First is feel free to excerpt or even to modify slightly to make good works more accessible. Second, concentrate on universal themes like love, war, nature, or death. And the third, let students know that language is a way to understanding the greatest issues, not the smallest. And the last is don't be afraid to include some difficult elements such new vocabulary constructions they haven't mastered yet, references they don't understand, or the instructor can fill in the gaps, and the stretching process is essential to language learning. And then, in teaching literary selections, forget about literary history. We need to select materials which match the interests of our students. Often, the textbook used to teach English as a second or a foreign language in the third world countries contain stories, dramas, and poems. Some of these, especially stories and dramas, may be from some cultural and literary background of the learners. Like because we are in Indonesia, we can use Indonesia short story or fairy tale, but using English, something like that. So the student can relate and have a background knowledge about the story before, and then this text may not pose cure to cultural problems for students. They are certain to pose problems for the TESOL teacher. Classical texts like novel, plays, and other, abridged and retold would also be an excellent additional to TESOL textbooks. There are some tips too in this part. First, do not give extensive background on the author and the historical situation. And then let students infer this from the selection themselves. Avoid the deadly situation in which teacher knows all and students nothing. Work through the selection together using the techniques of close reading to draw out tone, structure, diction, and so on. And then choose selection that work with this approach, that don't need extensive explanation, that have an immediate appeal. Strong controversial work about which students can argue are often more effective than those that agree with contemporary views. Choose selection that cannot be understood completely in English, bringing home the point that reading anything in translation brings only partial understanding. So please avoid the text that use the vocabularies that the student don't familiar with, so they can read it with full English without translation, so they can get the point of the text that they read. And the last tip is don't stick to contemporary works. The implication of literature is using poetry for teaching second language or foreign language. A poem readily lends itself for listening and speech practice. As a rule, poems are musical and sweet to hear. Hence, the poem to be taught should be recorded and then played for the benefit of the learners. The learners may be encouraged to listen to the recording as many times as possible. This will not only give them a feel of the music present in the poem, but also provide them the much needed exposure, the sounds of the target language. This is fact that speech practice may follow listening practice. We should let the learners recite the poem in chorus, then in groups and at last individually. This will enable them to have practice with the target language sounds in a meaningful way. Also, engaging the learners in a discussion in the class can ensure speaking practice. After they have learned the poem and got the overall message, they may be asked evaluative questions. The role of story and storytelling. The role of story and storytelling in language teaching classes is very effective and very interesting for the students. So the teacher can easily take the advantage in teaching the foreign language using short stories. And the last literary work is use of drama or theater text in the language classroom. Coley and Slater in 1987 focused on positive contribution language learning through literature could make in that literary text constitute valuable authentic materials as it exposes the learner to different register type of language use. Writers such as Mali and Duff 1978 suggest drama can help the teacher to achieve reality in several ways. It can overcome student resistance to learning the new language. Drama provides cultural and language enrichment by revealing insight into the target culture and presenting language context that make items memorable by placing them in realistic social and physical context. So, thank you for watching this video. I hope it will help and thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.